Well, hello. It's Sahara, and I'm here to bring you one of my very favorite charts, Miss Marilyn Monroe. What an enigmatic persona she presented. And I want to say, she was truly an actress because she had everybody fooled. You see, her son, she is a Gemini. You see that? See that? And she had a Aquarius moon, and we just looked at a chart with um, Princess Diana, who had an Aquarius moon, and these are very intellectual placements. All of the air signs are noted for the intellect, and that's something you'll start to learn to group together. The three air signs are Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. And so she's got two of these um, intellectual signs that are part of her chart makeup. As well, her moon, you see her moon here? Her moon is in the seventh house. That's the house of Libra. And astrology is a lot like minestrone soup. You add a little of this, and you add a little of that. You start to learn that there's no black and white to astrology. It's a blending, and you throw an onion in, and it changes everything. But the air signs are uh, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, and they're all denoted by two separate parts of the glyph. For instance, Gemini has the twins. You see two, the numbers two almost. That means two. Aquarius has two squiggly lines, mean water, and you see Libra is also two lines, more or less parallel, and they represent justice and the weighing out of things. So you see, she had everybody fooled. That dumb blonde act was just that. I often feel that if she had made other choices, she would have been very happy to have been a professor somewhere on a campus teaching a class. So she would have been known as Professor Monroe as opposed to Marilyn Monroe. In fact, Monroe was not her real last name. A movie producer just drummed that name up as a cool sounding name. Um, and if you do numerology, you see that he made a good choice. Maybe he knew numerology, because her name comes out to be a 10. But 10 is 1, and 1 is usually single. But that's another story. Numerology is a fun thing. There's a little numerology can be noticed in this chart. Now remember, we're doing the main points of the charts, the basic chart. We have the ascendant, the sun, and the moon. And one thing that I have just learned recently, astrology is one of those things that it's just a continued process of learning, which always keeps it fresh in your mind. Um, this degree, 13 and 13, you see that 13, 13, and she has a few others, 13 placements, is a misfortunate number. I didn't know that until um, I talked to somebody that was into Chinese astrology. And truly, even my Tai Chi teacher won't end anything on a 4. So from both the European continent and the Chinese culture, you have a fear of the number 4. Now, what is 1 plus 3? It's 4. And I never thought of that until the Tai Chi master mentioned that. I remembered a conversation with some Chinese astrologers, and I began to look for it in people's charts. That's the proof of the pudding. And truly, it is a very misfortunate number. Of course, that's why we learn these things. If you see the number 13 in your chart, I don't think you're doomed, but knowledge is a responsibility. And once you gain that knowledge, you can start to work with it as opposed to never knowing. You know, how many times have you said, I wish I had known? Well, now you're going to be gaining a tool just for that very thing. Um, so here we have a Gemini sun that is a smart person, and they like to read and they like to study and learn things. Well, that is very true for Aquarius as well. They're quite charming. I remember a story by an actor of those times, and he ran into MarIlyn, and he'd known her for a long time, and she started talking to him in this breathless voice, and he said, MarIlyn, what's wrong with your voice? You sound so strange. Do you have a cold? She said, and she explained, no, that was the persona she was developing because she wanted to be a big star. But I think she should have had her right for UCLA and become a professor. And there's another story of Betty Davis who walked past Marilyn Monroe on a movie set, and Marilyn was reading Russian literature. Well, and Shakespeare. This was her light reading. And Betty Davis said, that girl's going to go far. And because she was very, very intellectual, but she certainly didn't let on to that. She planned her career and she planned her persona and she pulled it off beautifully. Well, she's a Gemini. Gemini is symbolized by two. Any place where you find Gemini, there's going to be two, two children, two spouses, two cars. People with Gemini in certain places have two pets, two children, and I don't think we look at it quite that black and white. And they also have twins a lot. But the Gemini is, that's what they complain about with Gemini, is that they're too changeable. They have one face one day, another face the other day. However, Geminis are kind of light. You're not coming on with heavy schizophrenic complications. It's just kind of a much more light experience. Like, oh, I'm in the mood for this. Next day, I'm in the mood for that. Much lighter. You have, and also her sun is in the 10th house. All the houses have numbers. This is the first house. This is her rising sign. And I hope we have time to discuss the Leo rising, because my camera only let me go so far, and that just turns off unexpectedly. And that's kind of abrupt sometimes, so the way I have to end. But this is her Aquarius moon. And we have the intellectual. She could hold her own with anybody, any statesman, any heavy intellectual people. She was right on board with it. But in front of the camera, it's a different story. She did the Dumb Blonde Act. And I think she enjoyed it. And so she brought a lot of I guess, frivolousness to the screen. And her style was fascinating. Women of that day, they were wearing those little pillbox hats, quite dowdy. You never saw her like that. And she also didn't wear much jewelry. She wanted just her beautiful hair to be her shining crown. And that is truly, she was a Leo rising. An unfortunate degree. I think if you have a strong unfortunate degree like 13, you want to play that down. You don't want to be flashing whatever it is around, because it brings ill fortune. However, it brought her hair was her glory. And when you think of Leo the lion, and that's Leo, that's a little glyph for Leo, they're just There's shining stars. You always know when a Leo has walked into the room. As it is ruled by the sun, and say the sun is like bright, and the sun is the center of our solar system. So is the Leo. They're going to stand out. They're going to feel like the center. They will be the center. Just when they walk in, you know they're there. They don't have to do anything. And everybody wants to be a Leo, and it starts to get fun looking at different Leo charts, and you see it right away. Right now we have Donald Trump as the president. What is the most striking thing about him? His hair. He has, guess, kind of orange gold hair. It's not very natural, but he's got. It is just it becomes a point of conversation and something that you notice, and it's almost blinding. He also has this thing for gold. He has a gold toilet in Trump towers. I mean, a gold toilet, for real. He sits on a gold throne. But we're not going to talk about this Leo politician. And that's another whole world. Let's talk about something light. However, MarIlyn, when I see her chart and I know the person she was, I think of her more uh, in a center in teaching a class. You're on stage as a professor, and she needed that intellectual um, camaraderie. And who were the men in her life? Arthur Miller, the most famous playwright of the last century, Jack Kennedy, um, let's see, Robert Kennedy. I think that she really liked Robert Kennedy the most. Um, it goes on and on. And her love life was legendary, of course, and it's kind of fun when you think about it. But and there's so many stories about her. However, I do feel like she was encouraged to take those pills. It was kind of obvious that it was a setup. She took them, but she was encouraged along. It was in a disparaged frame of mind. But her sun is technically in the 10th house. I have found that more people that have a planet right on a cusp, like you have the 11th house cusp is 10, and her sun is 10, is right on the cusp. They're often very, very strong, famous, or powerful people in some way. It's for some reason, it just something happened to my. Okay, my camera is acting up, so I hope that we can finish this. But there's always another time to talk about astrology. So what you've got is, there we go. We've got uh, the 10th house is the house of career, direction. That's where you're going in life. The 10th house goes from here to here, and it is where you're going in life. And when you start having a lot of planets in the 10th house, you're going to be career and goal oriented and driven. So here you have an elusive, intellectual, driven person to create an illusion. The only thing is, I think she fooled herself, because she would have been happier to have lived in a world of literature. So here you have, so that's why sometimes astrology can be good for you. I could look at this chart in a minute and say, I'm not so sure about acting. Have you considered blah blah Shakespeare? Here you have what's most important, the moon. The moon shows what you need emotionally. And her moon is in the 7th house. And we looked at, let me see, Princess Diana's chart, her sun was in the seventh house. What did she want? She wanted a partner, and so did Miss Marilyn Monroe. But I think was she's kind of like Goldilocks, though. She was trying to find the right person, and she ended up in every bed in town. However, that's what she needed to ground her. She never did quite find it. She thought she had found it with the Kennedys, but that was just extremely poor judgment. You know, you don't need to. I believe that Peter Lawford encouraged her to take those pills. You know, here it's like you take another drink for the road, that kind of thing. Take one more, you'll feel better. And so that was just incorrect for her. So I feel that she would have been happier to have been more at the intellectual person. So let's talk a little bit about the individual placements, the air Gemini and the airy moon, and then we go to the fiery Leo. Here she is on the red carpet with Joe DiMaggio, her second husband, who was a world famous baseball player. Joe DiMaggio did find her in bed with somebody, who knows? And he, the man that he walked in on barely got out, climbed out the window naked, but he made it alive because Joe DiMaggio would have killed him. And that was the kind of life she led. And it sounds exciting, but it's a little nerve wracking. You don't marry a world famous athlete and then piss him off. But um, anyhow, there she is, and you see even a woman in the background wearing one of those little ugly pill hats, and you know no jewelry, and her crowning glory is her beautiful hair. And here is the glyph for Mercury, the ruler of Gemini. Mercury is the god, mes- god of messengers, or messenger of the gods, and he flits around with important information. Uh, so that's what they're really noted for: trading information, communicating. They're very happy in any role that helps them communicate. Writers, sports newscasters, and of course acting. You're going to have to be expressive there. You're emoting something. So that is the planet Mercury. That's where the term mercurial comes about. And here is the sign for the twins, meaning two. You get a twofer. Moving on to the Aquarius moon, it here is the glyph for Aquarius, and it symbolizes water. And you see, once again, we have a symbol of two things going on. It's just intellectual. And then there's the moon. In this case, what moon shows what you need emotionally. And if you don't feel that in your life, you're going to come up short somehow. And that she did. Moon in the seventh house with Aquarius traits. So you have the blending of two things. The seventh house is Libra and Aquarius. So you've kind of like this means you've blended two things together, and you'll start to find that easy to do. Nobody's just one thing or the other. It's going to be a little bit of both. Seventh house, I need a partner emotionally to feel good, to feel complete. Um, Aquarius, don't fence me in. They're kind of two feelings, aren't they? It's hard to be uh, footloose and fancy free, which Aquarius is the sign of freedom. And then you are clingy, uh, needy Libra. I need a partner to feel whole. So this kind of things don't go together very well. Some positive traits about an Aquarius moon or anything Aquarian: clever, witty, cold, very, they can be icy, cliquish. That's one thing I find about Aquarians. They have their own little clique. Um, I heard Wayne Dyer talk about how we form tribes around us. We have a family tribe. We have our tribe of close friends, associates. We have many tribes, and the tribe is kind of how the Aquarius um, defined themselves. And she did have her own little Hollywood group around her of interesting people. They're aloof, cold, and elitist. My goodness, they certainly are. They sometimes are. They kind of they'll pick out their little tribe who they want to be around. Their cliquish personality, and that's that. If you're not one of them, you get the cold shoulder. That's very characteristic of the Aquarius, but they're very, very interesting. Um, Aquarius is very rebellious, and I don't think she showed that part of her personality, but I'm sure that well, she acted that way in her marriages. So let's see what else we've got here. Humanitarian, and we saw that a little come forth a little bit more with Princess Di's chart. They have a tribe. They're inventive, and I've had a lot of Aquarian people in my life, and they're kind of the MacGyvers of the zodiac. They can put things together, take them apart, and they like machines. Astrology is ruled by Aquarius. They they're also ruled by are affected by electricity. They're kind of electrical in that sense. They're very high strung. You always feel this kind of, they're cool on the outside, but inside you've got a kind of electrical current all the time. They're certainly independent, and they're smart. Now, we've talked a lot about the seventh house, and we also looked a lot at the seventh house with Diana. We have the same thing going on of the things that you need to be a seventh house person, because MarIlyn's moon was in the seventh house. So they have a flair, no kidding. You look at Princess Diana and you look at Marilyn Monroe, it was quite obvious when they walked in. They had a flair about them. They are stylish. They kind of want to fit in, but have their own signature personality. Is a very good way to put it. They're going to have their own way of expressing themselves, but they're also very thoughtful of, they're stylish. What's in vogue, what is they're basically trendsetters. They're flirtatious and carefree. That's a Libra, and Libras are just delightful to be around. They can be indecisive. It's also a little on the chilly side, so you've got a lot of that going on. And Libras tend to complain once they get stuck on something. It's like it will go round and round. stuck on the same thing, complain about one particular thing, and they're usually complaining if they are complaining because their toasters always break. It'll be something in their childhood that didn't work, and until you help them hunt down what the real root of the complaint is, it's going to drive you crazy with the petty complaining and gossipy and uh, fearful. So that's true of Libra. They're always complaining about something, and not always. There's no such thing as always, but when something is brewing inside from something long ago, they are complaining about something in the present tense, and you tend to try to fix whatever they're complaining about, and that's not the root cause. Here is the glyph for Leo the lion. Leos are often very spiritual. It's not a trait that we associate with Leos. We tend to think of them as the good time party people, but underneath it all, they're very, very spiritual, and they're noble. So they're not always walking across the room with a lamp on their head saying, "I'm lit up," and telling jokes. They're very, very deep and spiritual because they're ruled by the sun, and the sun has been worshipped for centuries by different societies. And Leos have not forgotten this. They still consider themselves the center of all things, and truly a spiritual. They will seek God, or once they realize that they're not um, uh, center of the universe, they start to really, really look for their inner God. I think this picture shows off MarIlyn very well, her personality. You have her crowning glory was her hair. Sometimes she would have a bleached white, and other times it would be blonde, but it was her, I guess, halo. And I want you to think about the Leos you've known. Sometimes they're quite dignified, so they don't show the outward flashy personality. They have the dignity of the king of the jungle. So whether you get a dignified Leo or you get the class clown, you're going to know underneath there is that royal, sensitive, and spiritual side. Here's some positive traits that they're confident. They portray confidence very well. Charismatic. They don't have to do anything. They're very generous and have a heart of gold. That I think those traits will tell you a lot about the Leo right there. Um, Creative. They like children. Because they're childlike themselves, and they're broad-minded, powerful. Always think of Leo the lion. Now see how much and royal. You think of a Leo as being royal, so think of what you know already and all the Leos you've known. Let's see if we can find some negative traits. Uh, Arrogant, for sure, for sure. It's a problem. Demanding, flashy, uh, bossy. I know bossy is very good, and dogmatic. And you might want to think about the President Trump with his the gold toilet, the gold hair, the gold palace. Everything's gold. Big casinos. So you've got this big personality with lots of hair and domineering when they walk in and they start barking orders. So until they get to the other side of Leo, where they go, "Oh, I'm not the center of the universe or the solar system. I think there's something else going on," and they start to become very spiritual. They don't need all the golden glitz. So that was a little tour of the basic chart for Monroe. I hope you've learned a little bit about Geminis, Aquarians, and Leos. And every time you meet somebody, I hope you have the sense to ask them when their birthday is, and you get a chance to draw up some charts yourself. I will say that you are privileged to be living in the age of touch button knowledge. And when I first started learning how to do charts, I would be sitting with hundreds of books around me. Now, for what I could take, I would learn in a week, and I can learn in a nanosecond with the tools that we have. I will say that online, uh, while you can learn anything, and knowledge is a responsibility. How fortunate you are. Uh, Kings and queens couldn't get the kind of information that you can get now. So take that as a responsibility to know yourself and understand the world around you and to get the best out of your life. I will say that I don't like the charts that are offered free online. They do a terrible job of showing you the degrees, which is, that's like a big part of it here on the kind of chart I have. You can see what the degrees are, 10 degrees of Gemini. That tells you you don't have degrees on all the charts online, and it's just not always accurate, but you get the basics. If you decide you want me to run off a chart for you, leave a note on Facebook under SaharaBrignoli or on this page, and I'll send you for a small charge a chart that actually has degrees. That's my own pet peeve, though. Maybe it doesn't matter. You just know that you might know that you're a Leo somewhere, which okay, fine, whatever. But I do think it's kind of funny not to be able to read the degrees or for it to be handy. And look at the degrees in a chart. I like 10. 10 is a lucky number, but 10 means 1. And so you could tend to be alone, even though she had husbands, the whole world, there was that loneliness. 13 uh, is not good. You don't want to have a big life. You have to tone it down a little bit because that it can be dangerous. She got into some dangerous stuff with her affairs with the Kennedys. Um, the president. We have three parts to our government. We have the legislative, judicial, and presidency. If you mess around with 1/3 of the way our society is structured, you're going to be eliminated. And she had some people who, when she was feeling sad and blue, they encouraged her to take some pills, and they didn't call an ambulance in time to save her because they knew what they were doing. They were trying to save our country from going under due to ill-conceived affair, and it just wasn't going to fly. So you see that, and here we have 19. That is 1 plus 9 is 10. So you have single, single, and 13 is misfortunate. So was she lucky? Yes. Was she unlucky? Yes. So looking at the degrees of things can tell you a lot. If you know a little numerology, it's easy, and you must always be aware of it. There's nothing more tragic than learning something the hard way and where it was right in front of you the whole time. So I'll bid you adieu. I'll leave contact information underneath with the with contact information and how to come back to FYI Sahara for more inspirational charts. And as as we go along, we'll try to we'll expand more on um, more complexities of a chart. But you've got to get once you get your basics down, it's almost like uh, anything else, horseback riding or riding a bike. You got to get your balance first. So you can't just dive in with all the thousands of things. If I were to show you all the things that are available in a chart, face it, we're looking up at planets, the solar systems, the cosmos, the universe, how much stuff is out there. But not looking up it can also lead to problems. But if you know a little bit, you are well armed for having a successful and happy life and to do good things for other people. And I'll see you next time. And I'd love to get suggestions on charts you'd like to see. So I'll bid you adieu.